TinkerCAD tip. In this episode, I'm going to be going over repeating cylindrical patterns again, but this time with a practical application. You can see on screen here, this was sent to me by a friend of mine. It's a coaster, and he had designed this and found that when the can sweat, that bit of water in the bottom on this flat surface would actually make the can adhere to the coaster. So what we wanted to do was develop a version that looked similar to this, that had these ridges in it that would keep the can from sticking. In order to do this, I first had to do a little bit of math. And I did some measuring here and found out that the diameter across this was 58.25 millimeters. From that, I know what the radius is and what the total circumference is. That will help me when I begin to create my cylindrical pattern. And I did that by starting with one of these little triangle objects. So I knew the radius was going to be 29.125. So the length of my part here, this triangle, is 30 millimeters. The circumference, which was roughly 183 millimeters, I wanted to do 50 of these that went around the circumference. So when I do the math there, that came to about 3.66 millimeters. And the height of this is 1 millimeter. So I'm going to start by backing out here. I'm going to select that object. I'm going to make a copy of it, and I'm going to turn this, and I'm going to make that offset 7.2 degrees. I'm going to zoom in here, and at the top, I'm going to use my cursor keys. First, I'm going to go down here and set this to 0.1 millimeters, and using my cursor keys, I'm going to bring these two center portions together. Get them lined up there. That looks pretty good. Back out here. Now, without deselecting that object, I'm going to begin clicking the duplicate function up here, and you can see it building around in a circle. There we have it. I'm going to go ahead and select all of these and group them together. So now that's one object. Now if we zoom in real close here, you can see that there's a small hole in the middle of this. And I'm going to solve for that little problem by taking a cylinder here. We'll bring it in. We'll make it 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter. Whoop, it's going to go by 1 millimeter tall. Now I'm going to select that little cylinder. Holding the Shift key, I'm going to select this part. I'm going to click on my Align button up here. I'm going to then click on this shape down here to keep this as the focal point. And I'm going to do my Align. Now if we zoom in, we'll see that little cylinder in there. It's covering up the hole. And I'm going to take all of that and I'm going to group that together. So now I have my basic shape. That's 60.43. It's a little bit larger than what the hole is on this coaster. In order to trim these edges, I started working on this. So I have a whole cylinder here that's about 58 1/4 in both dimensions. I've got a larger box around it. I'm going to take and center these two, align them together. They're aligned. Oops, let's do that again. Align, align. I'm then going to group those two together. Now this solid object, I'm going to turn that into a hole. And I'm going to use that by bringing it over here, and I'm going to align these two objects together. Click the Align tool. I'm going to click on this object to make it the focal point. Center it. Align. Center in that aspect. Center in that aspect. Then going to select both of those again and do my merge. So there I have my final product, my ridges, which are 58.26 by 58.26, which is just slightly larger than this divot that we have in here. I can bring this over here a little bit. Now, in order to set this object on top of this bottom here so that I have a little bit of plastic extruding underneath this, I'm going to use my work plane tool. Click on the work plane. I'm going to bring it over here. That becomes my plane. I'm going to click on this object and I'm going to hit the letter D on the keyboard so that it's now brought up to the same level as this surface at the bottom of the coaster. I'm going to click on the work plane tool again, put it back on the default work plane. Now I can take this object and I can begin sliding it over. Let's bring this over. Let's zoom in a little bit. Change my aspect here. And again, with my snap grid settings set to like 0.1, I'm going to adjust this a little bit so that it fits in there nicely. Back out. I'm going to select the coaster and the new object that I created, and I'm going to group them together. And that's how I was able to put this star-shaped ridges in this coaster. There you go. Hope you enjoy.